Hey boys and girls, Squee913 here. We have a special treat for you today. I'm joined today by Inferno Canuck. Say hello.
Hello.
And we have a special treat for you guys. We are starting a new cooperative Let's Play. And I know what you guys are thinking. Another Let's Play? This one's a little different. It's going to be a Let's Play on modification from Medieval 2 Total War. Which is, hang on, let me pause this. It is going to be medieval, instead of Medieval Total War, it's going to be Third Age Total War, which is basically a mod that makes Medieval 2 Total War into a the Middle Earth, like Lord of the Rings. You know, hobbits, orcs, men, elves, on the Middle Earth campaign map. And the cool idea about it is, I gotta give it a little segue before we start the battle. That way they know what's going on.
Of course.
Is that I'm going to have 7 advisors, and these people have already been chosen, and they already have their positions. And what they're going to do is each advisor is in charge of a certain aspect of the LP. For example, Inferno here is the advisor of diplomacy, which means he's in charge of making alliances, breaking them, deciding who to go to war with, and basically just being able to predict the moves of the people around us. And of course, you have another advisor, which is the advisor of grand strategy, who decides how to fight wars, how to defend provinces, stuff like that. And the thing is that we had 2 of our advisors who both wanted the position. And so we told them the way they were going to win the position was to battle it out in an online match, which is what you're seeing right here, and what we're about to watch and commentate on. And whoever wins this match, now they know, but we don't know who won. And whoever wins this match gets to be the advisor of grand strategy, whereas the other one will have to choose another advisor position. So, right now you have, right here, you have Kevbob as the army of Portugal, and these are pretty, as you can tell, pretty massive armies. We gave them quite a lot of resources to play around with.
That's an understatement.
Yes, and let's go ahead and see what he's got here, what his setup is. Now, for those of you who don't know much about Medieval Total War, hopefully as you watch the LP, we're going to explain a lot to you, so you'll learn. But he's got peasant archers. Really? Peasant archers?
Peasant archer is very interesting. Interesting. Maybe he was just trying to lull the enemy to a false sense of security.
That's the only thing I can think of, because it's not like he had to save money.
This is true.
Which honestly, though, in a trap like that, I'm not sure how effective that would be, because I don't think the enemy would be lulled.
Well, we shall see, won't we, Squee? We shall see.
Maybe.
What else does he have?
He has, of course, a bunch of peasant archers, and then Portuguese Alvarez. I don't know. I can't read the top of that because it's cut off for some reason. Arquebusters, which is a missile-type weapon. Is that guns? They are guns.
Yes, it is. That is a gunpowder unit.
Oh, they are guns. He has several of them. So he has several guns.
Indeed.
So he has several of the crappiest archers, and yet several of the of gunpowder units. Very interesting setup there, especially since
Indeed.
you probably would never have seen that in real life.
Of course.
Maybe you might have. And he's got several dismounted Portuguese heavy knights. Those look like they're going to be his heavy hitting infantry. I'm curious to see how he uses them. Usually I see infantry held as a pinning action, meaning the infantry tries to either hold your cavalry in place or hold your army in place so that their cavalry can get around you.
Indeed, yeah, to bog down the unit.
Hang on, my fraps is stopping for a second. Okay, there we go. There we go. Alright, and then behind them we have well, we have dismounted conquistadors as well. So not just dismounted knights, but dismounted conquistadors.
Indeed.
And then back here behind them, we have the spearmen, which is the literally the spearmen, which have very large spears. They're very good at they're very good at holding off and defending against cavalry. Cavalry.
Indeed, they are.
Cavalry. I've had problems for the past 2 days saying that word. Like my whole life, I've never had problems saying that word. But for some reason, the past 2 days, can't get it right. And then, of course, we come to the cavalry, which we have conquistadors, which are heavy cavalry. And we got several of those units. And then, of course, we have the general's unit back here, which is...
Kevbob himself.
Yes, indeed. Alright, can I just... No? Do you know how to use the arrow keys to pivot?
It depends on your configuration there. If you go into options...
Yeah, I might have to do that. Hang on. Okay, sorry, we needed to figure out a couple controls here. So, okay, so this looks like Kevbob's army. We have, what would you say your analysis is so far of the army?
My analysis is pretty good. He has an excellent balance of heavy infantry, spear infantry, ranged, and cavalry troops. The only thing I'm perplexed about are those peasant archers.
Me too.
But we'll see how they can play in the battlefield, perhaps.
It definitely seems like he's going with a very well-rounded army. He didn't go heavy on the cavalry. Oh, God. I almost give up.
Cavalry.
Or heavy on the infantry, as I've seen in some places. But right, those archers are really baffling me.
Perhaps what I think is that he's going to use them as cannon fodder. Frankly, put them in the front row and have them be shot first.
I suppose if you're going to lose a unit, but see, the thing that confuses me is that, and where's Rebels? Oh, I guess maybe Rebels' unit doesn't show up yet.
We have to start the battle, then we'll be able to take a look at Rebels' army.
Right. So we will take a look at Rebels' army as soon as it starts.
Exactly. We're now going into the deployment phase, and since we have the replay of Kevbob's point of view, we can see how he's going to position his troops, but we will have to wait for the battle to start before we can see what Rebel has.
Alright, so it looks like he's moving. Hang on, it looks like he's moving the gunpowder unit up front. And
of
over
course,
here
that
he's
makes
got,
good sense. They need a straight line of sight, after all.
Oh, and over here he has the spearmen. So he's moving the spearmen up, and he's moving the gunpowder units up, and now he's moving the heavy knights up, and now he's moving the dismounted conquistadors. So he's keeping the archers in the back. Oh, maybe he just wants the archers just to add some extra fire over the top of his units.
That's a good idea, and I believe Portugal doesn't have a lot of archer units, to tell you the truth. Perhaps peasant archers were the best ones he could select, as compared to the English faction, where there are 3 or 4 different types of archer units, some of them quite elite, like the Sherwood archers.
Right. So maybe that's the point, because I'm not too familiar with Portugal. I don't think I've ever been them. So maybe it's just that the only choice he had was the peasant archers or the gunpowder. Which, I would think that there would at least be a militia archer or something, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, a peasant archer is very similar to a militia archer, really, and besides, cavalry are vulnerable to missile units, and if he upgraded them to gold, a sword and shield, that they could cause some serious damage to either cavalry units or lightly armored units.
Oh, here we go. Let's pause it. Now we can see Rebels' army. So well, let's first of all, before we go over to Rebels' army, let's see how he deployed his troops, because we have an interesting formation here. It's very common to see. You have your cavalry on the wings, of course, because the object of cavalry, since they're fast moving and they're hard hitting, is to try and flank your opponent. So, putting them here does a twofold purpose. It, of course, gives them a wider berth so that they don't have to travel as far to try and get around your opponent, like my mouse is doing, and it also protects against their cavalry trying to do the same thing. So, this is a very common formation to see. Of course, you have the heavily defensive infantry up front. But of course, but then again, the dismounted knights also have a really good attack, so they're kind of a nice just all around. This is interesting. Now, I don't use gunpowder units a lot, but I take it gunpowder units cannot shoot over, which is why he probably has them in the front line.
Yes. No, they cannot shoot over units. They don't have a trajectory. They're bang on.
So it looks
point and click, the original point and click interface, as they say.
Right. So it looks like we have a pretty solid wall here. He's going to have the two gun units, and as you see, he has them rather narrow because he's going to move them out of the way as soon as the infantry gets really close with the enemy, and he's probably going to move these units up to cover them as they retreat, which would be my guess, assuming everything goes to plan. So let's go take a look at Rebel's army.
Indeed. Yes, yes, yes.
All right. So, and is this already? I'm wondering if this is already in. This is already the way he's deployed it, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we have now one thing. England. He's England, of course, and one thing England is famous for is their longbow, and to represent that, of course, in medieval Total War II, the archery units of England are fabulous. They are really, really good archers.
They are the best in the game.
Yes, indeed. And if you get, and of course, if you see right here, there are, I can't read it because half the word's cut off. They're the advanced longbowmen that have the ability to deploy spikes in front of them, which would be an interesting tactic.
Stakes, yes.
Yes, it would be an interesting tactic. I don't know. I don't think Rebel's the attacking one, I believe, but I'm not sure.
Oh, you're still able to do it. However, you have to deploy the spikes in the deployment phase of the game. So if we don't see any spikes, we can just assume that Rebel has forgotten to do so.
Or just chose not to. Perhaps he felt if he was the one attacking, the spikes wouldn't have been very effective because he would have had to just move past them. So he has, and this is also a very common formation to see at the beginning of a battle back then, that you would have the archers out in front, so that they could get the maximum range and get the most damage, and then if they're attacking, the infantry would start moving through them. If they were defending, they would push back as the enemy army came in. And then down here, you have, of course, armored swordsmen, which are very good at attack and defense, in my opinion. They're not great against cavalry as say pikemen are, but they're really solid as far as my experience is. I love them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have dismounted knights, which are, I don't know a huge difference between those and the swordsmen. I think the swordsmen have a little better stats, but that's about it. Maybe the movement rate or the morale might be different. I don't remember.
Yes.
But, yes, but it looks like he doesn't have any pikemen or billmen at all, actually.
No, he doesn't. It seems like he mostly has sword infantry, so that could be that could be both an advantage and a disadvantage.
It could,
depending on how he plays with them.
Because of course the sword infantry is very high at attack, but very bad at defense against well, especially against cavalry. But billmen or pikemen are good at defense against pretty much everything. That's the whole point.
Exactly. As far as heavy infantry goes, you normally like to use your spears as a defensive, while your sword infantry are more of a striker type of infantry.
Right. Now, it should be noted that the dismounted knights do have, these aren't swords, these are actually bills, but these aren't the long pikes that you normally see a defensive line hold against cavalry and things like that. Now, and of course, then you have your Templar knights, which are some of the best knights England can get. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Now, it's interesting that he didn't deploy them on the wings like Kevbob did. He deployed them in the rear, which means to me it shows that he's not sure what he's going to do with them. He's waiting to see how the battle unfolds before he decides where and what he's going to do with his cavalry. That's not always the case. Maybe he does have a plan, but generally, in my experience, if they're back here, it means because you want to be flexible.
That's right. The big question for me is whether Rebel plans on massing his cavalry, that is, using all his cavalry to strike one particular wing, or if he's going to end up splitting them to match what Kevbob will be doing on his side.
And this is actually an advantageous position to be in if you're not sure, because putting your cavalry on the wings like Kevbob does over here, it splits up the cavalry, so it's hard to concentrate. You're pretty sure that he's going to try and hit from both sides or from multiple directions. Whereas Rebel, he doesn't play his hand. In other words, you don't know what he intends to do because he could do either.
Indeed.
So, all right. So, my guess is from this form, from the layout of the army and the setup of the army, I'm thinking that Rebel's going to try and hit hard. I think he wants to be attacking in this match and wants to probably stay on the offensive. which is kind of it will be very interesting because it almost seems like Kevbob is set up for more of a defensive posture. He's got his horses on the wings to try and prevent any flanking attacks or to make attacks of his own of opportunity. And of course, he has very heavily defensive units up front. So this should be very interesting, I think. And we should,
it will be.
We should probably press play before we lose all of our viewers.
Yes, probably a good idea.
I'm sorry. I'm military history major. I get so googly about this kind of thing.
Oh, not a worry, not a worry. It provides quite a bit of anticipation, actually. I find it interesting, however, with the combination of the musket troops, well, not really musket troops, the matchlock gun troops and the peasant archers. It almost seems like, now, forgive me if I'm wrong because I haven't counted all the units, but it seems like Kevbob actually is out missiling, at least in quantity, over Rebel.
It would appear.
Would you say that?
I would say so. Because now Rebel has lots of archers, but if you notice, yes, he does have a very long line, but it's a very thin line. He wanted to stretch his archers out to hit a very large area, but they're not very concentrated.
Only that, but it helps with their own defense as well.
Correct.
So it looks like the first missiles have been
Our men are under attack. We need
brought.
to act.
Has been sallied.
Sally, there we are.
Now, I'm guessing that these guys aren't in range yet. The gunpowder unit. Oh, he's doing fire arrows.
You might want to pause it for a second there, Squee, because
Sure.
it seems like the Ustream has been cut out, I'm afraid.
Hang on, folks. All right, sorry, we had some slight technical difficulties, but we're back, and let's get back into it. Now, they are both advancing on each other.
Both advancing, yes.
Except he's not advancing, though. He's firing arrows, but who cares?
Perhaps
So
they already advanced. Oh, he's within range.
Yeah, so he's firing arrows, and in a second he's going to start
Our men
shooting.
are under attack. We must act now.
He's going to start shooting fire arrows, which I thought was an unusual choice because it makes you less accurate. Normally, I just use fire arrows. See, he starts firing fire arrows. Now, my guess is he's concentrating solely on the gunpowder units. And my guess is that he's trying to demoralize them?
Perhaps. Also, fire arrows are very good against armored troops for whatever reason in the game engine. It tends to be more effective, actually.
That's actually odd. I never knew that. Because all I knew is that it made him less accurate. So I only generally used fire arrows if... Oh, look at this. Look at this. Rebel is actually splitting up his horsemen.
He is. Okay, so he's deciding to do a double envelopment or a double strike with his cavalry.
And here's another volley of fire
men are
arrows.
under attack. We need to act.
Except these fire arrows are more spread out this time. The first volley was very concentrated on just the two... Oh, here we go. Hang on. I was going to say on just the two gunpowder units, but this volley seems to be more like he just told them to fire at will. Obviously, he's concentrating on other issues right now.
Indeed.
Now, here's what we have. Here's a classic thing. He sent his horses up trying to do a double envelopment, and he's sending his horses out wide. And this is why Kevbob had his horses stationed here to protect against just this thing. So now he can send his cavalry to go stop his cavalry from flanking them. This is the protection right here. So what will happen ideally is that these two units will intercept these two units, and it will basically make them both null and void for a while. And
yes.
Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. And then it all depends on the individual fighters, on who will reign supreme. But even if in that long slog one person remains victorious, the unit will be so depleted that it will be practically ineffective for the rest of the battle. So you're right, they're going to be knocking out each other's cavalry quite fluidly if Kevbob reacts the way we will assume he will.
Right, and it looks like here we might get the same issue. And if that's the case, if we get the two cavalry battles on the sides over here, then this is going to become an infantry war, completely.
Yeah.
So let's continue and let's see how it develops over here, because we have the general idea of what's going to happen over here.
Yes.
They're obviously going to Well, Rebel's going out wider than I thought, and he stopped. He was pausing right now to wait and see what he did.
We need to act.
And of course now Rebel just charged them, so those two cavalry units are going to fight it out. And it looks like these ones as well. However, uh-oh, look what we got here. Kevbob made a mistake.
Oh?
Yes, he basically charged both units at one cavalry unit and allowed the other cavalry unit to hit him from behind.
Yes. They were caught on the hoof, as they say.
Mm-hmm. So now, what we said about the two cavalry units annihilating each other, that's assuming that they're just charging straight into each other like over here. Over here, you have a fairly even fight going on. No one's flanking anyone. Everyone's just going to just slog it out until the one man's left standing. However, on this side, you're going to see a very different fight take place. Unless Kevbob does something miraculous. And I think you can already see he's trying to save his cavalry here.
Yes, he's trying to peel off some of his infantry troops to help them.
Rebel was able to make a minor double envelopment on these guys. So now the cavalry is being attacked from both sides. And if it's left like this, both these cavalry units are going to be decimated. So that's why he's trying to take this pike unit and probably hit Rebel from the rear, which could be effective. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how well it works.
It depends on how. Yeah, exactly. Go on and see. It completely depends on how well his cavalry can hold out if those slow-moving pikes can actually.
He's not even advancing them. He's just keeping them there as a stationary target. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, he's.
And what do we got going on over here? There's a unit. Now, they can't be running away. They're actually marching. So, Kevbob is actually marching his cavalry away from the engagement. My guess is to try and get better position, try and set up for a charge.
Either that or lure the cavalry away from the battlefield. Maybe he feels that he can't win this cavalry battle, so he's going to try to negate them by having them follow him in the futile chase, perhaps.
That is possible. He is. It looks like he is in a. Well, it kind of looked like he was in a wedge formation. It's kind of hard to tell though right now, but it definitely does look like Rebel is either A, taking the bait, or B, not letting him get better position. Either or, we're not sure. So depending on
Kevbob's
intentions,
your perspective,
right?
Yeah.
No, it did look like Kevbob was just trying to gain some momentum. He was trying to, and you see that a lot in cavalry cavalry battles like this, and especially in this game. You'll see people try and back up a little bit just to get the cavalry charge going. Oh, my Fraps is giving me a little bit of a problem right now. Okay. Yeah, so you'll see that happen a lot. They'll back up and then they'll charge in again. However, now here's an interesting thing. Kevbob is sending infantry this way, and actually, this was actually kind of a smart move on Kevbob's part.
Huh?
Because what he did by withdrawing this one unit and drawing out some of Rebel's troops is that he was able to kind of surround, not completely, but at least have Rebel's units fighting enemies on both sides, and now this unit's going to come up behind them, and this cavalry troop's going to be in trouble. Especially since he also has reserves coming over here, and Rebel has no one to help them. No one. So, unless Reb pulls something out of his hat, that cavalry unit may be completely annihilated. However, on the other side over here... Uh-oh. What happened? He's driving off Reb's cavalry unit. Now, that would be curious to see what happened. How that happened, because when we let's
go to the instant replay there, Squee.
Just rewind, or?
Yes, rewind.
That just makes it slower. Oh, okay, yeah.
Then never mind.
How do we, is there a way to instant replay? No?
I suppose not, Squee.
Okay, well...
We'll have to remember to hire our technical advisor for this one.
Right. But basically, right, something happened when we last left him here. Rebel had that unit enveloped. Now, the only thing I can think of is that, for whatever reason, Kevbob's cavalry was just much better than Rebel's.
intrinsically superior. Yeah.
Right. That was the only thing I could think of, and they caused Rebels' formation to break. Now, this is not good. This is definitely not good for Rebel, because it means that both of his cavalry wings are in trouble.
Yes, they are.
And if Kevbob can manage to take out Reb's horses, and now, are they running away or they're marching? No, Rebel's trying to get out of there to regroup, to try and, which is a smart move.
Indeed.
Because he doesn't want all of his horses annihilated, because look how many horses he's lost. This is mostly England right here. Yeah. And if he loses... Oh, and we have the whole infantry battle going on over here. I wish we could rewind a little bit, because there's a whole lot going on at once.
Our men are under attack.
We'll have to just keep our eyes peeled.
Indeed. So, now the infantry battle seems to be going pretty even at the moment. No one's flanking anyone. Everyone's just kind of sitting in the middle, duking it out. I think the battle's really going to hinge on these side battles over here.
Perhaps that seems quite likely.
And it looks like Rebel is not doing well. But
not right now.
Right, it's far from over. And see, you look at these massive amounts of arrows. This is just England's strong suit right there. Is all those archers.
Yes.
And
so, what Kevbob needs to... Oh.
Was that the general? That's not good.
Yes, that was. The question is, whose general?
It was Rebel's general, because I saw the English fall.
I see.
Which is not good.
Yes, that's even worse, unfortunately. What Kevbob needs to do, if he wants to ensure that his men don't get hit by those fire arrows, is to try and engage most of his infantry already that way. The Rebel is either forced to fire into his own infantry, or find new targets.
Now
the enemy are badly blooded. They have lost half their men.
Now this is interesting, that Kevbob lost half his men before Reb did.
They did, yes.
Which means that Reb is doing better than it looks like on the sides, at least. Perhaps he's dominating in the infantry battle.
More likely, yes.
But the problem's going to be is, what's Reb's morale like? Because if his general's gone, his units are going to break much easier. Oh.
That's true.
And it looks like... Hang on. Wow. Okay. Obviously, we don't know exactly what happened with all the details, but it looks like Reb actually came out on top as far as the cavalry is concerned over here. But, like we said before, not to much effect. He did win, but he has, what, 3-4 horses left.
Yeah, that's not going to do much, I'm afraid.
Right, but it's very interesting how this whole battle developed, because at first it looked like Rebel had it in the bag, and then it looked like Rebel was in lots of trouble, and then...
Well, that's the fluctuation of warfare, I suppose.
Indeed. All right, and then hang on, let's go over here real quick. I wanted to get a good look at the infantry battle because it's hard to tell who's doing what to who's taking the advantage, because basically you just have these pockets right here. And no one's really breaking through anyone. Well, actually, I was going to say no one's really breaking through, but that's not true. Look at this. These are all English.
They are?
These are all English. And so, in other words, yeah, the English are dominating this infantry battle, it looks like. And if they can break into these archers, that's going to be very, very bad news for Kevbob.
It is going to be bad news. As we saw with the army makeup, Rebel did have a whole lot more infantry, where Kevbob, although he had a good mix of both spears and swords, did put a few more of his unit slots into missile units. So that's where these are the consequences of that. What Kevbob would need to do is have his infantry just hold off Rebel's infantry long enough that he can circle around or use his missile troops to cause more casualties. However, time's ticking up against him, and now the full force, the full weight of Rebel's infantry are now really giving him a serious problem.
It is true. And now his only hope, well, not his only hope, but I would say his best hope is going to be based in this cavalry unit right here, because they're still strong enough to be a factor. They're not as strong as they could be.
They are.
but they are strong enough to be a factor. This unit, it would be hard for this unit to get to anywhere in time to be very effective. However, if Kevbob hits them from behind, maybe. But like you said, the Rebels' army or infantry is really giving Kevbob problems, and a lot of that came through too. Like I said, that Reb's infantry was set up so that they were very heavy hitters. They were not great defenders, but the swordsmen and the dismounted knights are very strong attackers. And what happened was, Reb. Now I don't know if this was intentional or not, but let's give him benefit of the doubt and say it was intentional. Okay, so here's what Kevbob is trying to do. He's going to ignore the infantry battle. He's probably decided that this is too small to make a huge dent in this. So what he's going to try and do is attack the weaker, more vulnerable units, the longbowmen, and perhaps maybe try and lure some infantry back this way.
Indeed.
Now, personally, if Rebel's smart, he's going to press the attack. Because,
of course.
Right, because, you know...
what Kevbob might also try to do is actually try to eliminate Rebel's missile complement. Simply due to the fact that his peasant archers, and I believe probably his matchlock gunners, can also skirmish, and exhausted men who have already fought a battle in heavy armor cannot chase after these more lightly armed units, and therefore Kevbob is trying to maintain some form of mobility by taking out Rebels' archers.
That's true. But the problem is here is he doesn't have a lot of time, because you can see Rebels already broken through in several places, and one major place right here. And these peasant archers are going to be like a hot knife through butter compared to this infantry unit right here.
Indeed.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, Reb, whether it was intentional or not, it was very smart of him to tie up all of Kevbob's cavalry and the wings and let his infantry take on their infantry, because his infantry was just far superior.
The course of this battle changes because defeat seems almost certain.
So
now Kevbob's in dire straits.
Now, if Kevbob had managed to hold off the cavalry in some other way and use his cavalry...
Our foolish general has thrown it. Our men are under attack. We need
now they both have
no general.
Both generals have
perished. So, which means that any morale bonus or advantage that Kevbob may have suffered or had is gone. And now it's just... honestly, I'm agreeing with the advisor. Unless Kevbob does something drastic, this is not going well for him. Now, this could be the drastic move he's doing, because look at these units. If they try and flank Reb, it might be too late, but who knows?
Who knows, exactly. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
But here's the problem.
We need to act.
They're trying to flank them and hit them from behind, and that is effective, but look at all these arrows pouring into them. Because look at almost all of the longbowmen are untouched and unhindered, which means they can just stand there and shoot into this guy all day, because he has no one to attack him with. He's so hard pressed, he has no way to stop them.
Indeed.
And looks like the infantry, the English infantry, has pretty much decimated most of the Portuguese infantry. You still got a little bit of fighting going on here. You got some fighting, but they're already into the archers here. They're already into the archers here, and they're not going to last very long.
No, they're not.
However, there are a lot of units running on Rebel side, on both sides really. This is one of those fights that there's not going to be, even though you have a winner, there's no victor.
Indeed, it's been a very, very bloody battle so far, and I don't think it's going to finish anytime soon. Well, soon enough, but there are going to be a lot of men littered on the field.
Indeed. Now, here's an interesting thing. The Rebels' army is retreating, and Kevbob's army is pushing forward. But see, here's the problem. They are pushing forward, but... well, I wouldn't say the battle's lost yet, but Rebel has so many archers that he could probably just keep out of range and pelt them, that it would be difficult to track them all down.
It would be. The only hope is that they would run out of ammunition before Kevbob's forces were completely decimated, and then they would be in dire straits because all they could do is melee.
Right. See, and this is what I'm talking about. Reb can just back up and lay into them while they try and chase them. And his only hope is that they somehow catch them before their ranks are so decimated that they can't do much. Because really, this is pretty much all Kevbob has left. He has... and most of these are archers. Okay, there's a spearman here. There's a couple spearmen there. There's a couple dismounted conquistadors. But these are archers. These are archers. These are archers. These archers, I might add, are far less superior... or far inferior to these archers, which means even if they got into a fist fight, these archers would probably be winning.
More than likely.
So, I mean, so it does look like that he's got kind of a good pursuit force until you realize that half of them are made up of almost worthless units in a fist fight. Because almost all of his good infantry is still over here. So, like I said, I would say that if Rebel plays this smart, he's got this.
Indeed.
The cavalry is gone.
This is also
go ahead, sorry.
This is where the fire arrows do come in handy now that morale has been shaken due to the death of the general, and also due to exhaustion due to a prolonged battle. This is when these fire arrows will really come into play and may tip the scales completely into Rebel's favor.
Yes. Now, here's an interesting thing. Rebel's moving off to the side this way. I'm wondering if he's trying to envelop them or just get into better position. It looks like he's just trying to get more spread out, which would kind of make sense. If he doesn't clump up, he forces, well, I don't know. I was going to say he forces Kevbob to split up as well, but honestly, if I was Kevbob, I would take that to my advantage and send everyone after one unit, and then try and use force of numbers to take out each individual unit. Instead of what he's doing, whereas he's sending a small unit after a small unit, which is almost what Reb wants him to do. It'd be
almost, yes.
It would be much more effective for him to have taken all of his forces and attack, say, this guy, and then attack this guy, and then attack this guy, and this guy, instead of trying to... Now, my thinking is Kevbob is trying to keep them routed. In other words, maybe he thinks the morale is almost broken.
Push the advantage.
Right. But the problem is stretching yourself too far. Because, look, these are gunmen, these are archers. If they get into a melee fight, it's gonna be little doubt who's gonna win that.
I pray the course of this battle changes, because defeat seems almost
And
certain.
see, they already defeated this unit. If Kevbob had grouped everyone together and gone after one unit at a time, he might not have won, but he would have at least done a lot more damage, and might have turned something to his advantage. But what happened is that Reb split his forces up, and Kevbob split his forces up to follow. And that was a mistake.
Yeah. But as they say, hindsight is 20/20, which
Indeed.
makes this job all the more fun.
It is indeed. But for anyone who plays Medieval Total War or considers it, that is a very realistic thing about this, is that they very realistically go into concentration of power and how dangerous it can be to split up your forces. And that's always one thing to keep in mind, especially in a nail-biting situation like this, where everyone's on desperate straits. Concentration of power is almost always going to be better than splitting it up, unless you have some marvelous tactic under your belt. Like I said, the only time I would say not is if the army that you're fighting is on the verge of breaking, and they start routing, and they start running in different directions, then it might be worth it to split up to keep them routing, because the only way to keep them routing is to be nipping on their heels. But it's over. It is over, except for the fat lady singing.
That is true. That is true. But
it was a very good fight.
To say it. It was a very good fight by both sides, and the very fact that both of these gentlemen were kind of put on the spot to do this with very little preparation shows a bit of character, in my opinion.
That is true. I completely agree and concur. And honestly, I would think that I am quite happy having. Well, I would have been quite happy having either of them as a military of grand strategy advisor, because their tactics were sound for the most part. Maybe a little bit at the end there when they started getting desperate. But like you said, hindsight is 20/20. When you're in the thick of the moment, you don't have time to calmly consider the situation like we've been doing.
Of course.
But when the battle started, both of their tactics were very sound. And I have no idea what happened over here that changed everything around so much. And maybe there was some sort of ingenious maneuver that I didn't see. But
Perhaps.
now that the main thick of it, I was going to explain a whole bunch of how the LP is going to work while the battle was going. All right, no, I was saying I'd hoped to explain more about the LP while the battle was going on, but the battle turned out to be way too action-packed, way too good. I mean, this was a perfect battle to watch. This really, really was.
It was fun.
No, and they still have some holdouts here. You still have some little clinging to life.
Good. That's the spirit.
Yeah, Kevbob, if I'm going down, I'm taking some of you with me.
Exactly.
But then he's angered them now. So this would be a good time to explain how the LP is going to go for everyone who's interested in watching. Like I said, it's going to be Middle-earth. In other words, orcs, goblins. We're going to be playing the faction of Gondor, which is right in the thick of it, right in the middle of everything. You have Mordor, you have Rohan, you have the southern evil kingdoms. Now, some people may be asking, well, if we're going to be doing Third Age...
Save me. We can only vow to atone for this defeat by crushing our enemy next time.
Yeah. The people might be like, well, why didn't you do a medieval battle or Third Age battle? And that's only because
Third World. Yikes.
It's only because we don't have that set up yet. So we just did a basic medieval Total War 2. And here we have the results. We have almost exactly the same amount of men deployed. Only a 40-man difference, which is nothing when you're talking about these numbers. And losses, yep, Kevbob lost a lot more. It should be mentioned, though, that I would say a lot of the remaining forces for Rebel are archers.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, it came down to the archers.
Now, and it was exactly as I predicted, that if the cavalry held each other off like they did, it was going to become a complete infantry battle, and that's what happened. And what happened was Rebels' infantry was simply stronger. There wasn't any fantastic maneuvering or anything like that as far as the infantry is concerned. It was just taking a hammer to the anvil and beating it bloody, and sometimes that's the best effective strategy to use.
Yeah.
So let me explain things now, since the battle is done. Here's the idea of the LP, because you guys might have a chance to participate if you so want. Like I said, I have 7 advisors now. The positions I have is, of course, Inferno is going to be the advisor of diplomacy, as I already said. Yeah. We just found out that Rebel is going to be the advisor of grand military strategy, which means that he controls. If Inferno says we're going to go to war with this country, Rebel's going to decide how best to win that war. Or if a country goes to war with us, Rebel's going to decide how best to defend ourselves against them. And then we also have HK or HJ. I forget his full name, but he's another advisor. He's going to be in charge of troop movement, which means that if Rebel says, okay, we need to attack this town, then the advisor of troop movement is the one that decides how best to attack the town, what armies to use, what armies to merge, do we attack it with siege, do we wait them out, do we assault it, whatnot. And now those two are very, very closely related, and it's kind of going to be hard to tell who does what. But the basic idea is Rebel will tell him what to attack, and he will decide how to get it done. And of course, Inferno, you do the grand arc of you tell them what nation to attack, or not to.
And when.
Right.
Well, not necessarily when, but whom, yeah.
And then we have Mr. Galagoth, who is going to be our advisor of military development. Now, he's in charge of building the army. He has complete control over what units we make, where we make them, and how fast we produce them. And then, of course, we have Sergio is going to be in charge of our treasury. He's going to be our money bags. He's going to control the flow of money to everyone. In other words, he's going to be setting the budget for the military, setting the budget for development, setting the budget for agents, everything. We're going to have an advisor of agents who is going to basically control the agents. He's going to control the spies. He's going to control the diplomats. He's going to control the assassins. And he's going to have to work very closely with you, the diplomat, and actually pretty much everyone. I mean, the agents guy is going to have to work with the grand strategy, the military strategy gentleman, the diplomacy, even military development, because the advisor of agents has almost one of the most important jobs because he's the one that gets you all the information. And without information, you have nothing. You don't know what kind of troops to make. You don't know where to put them. Nothing. So we'll have an advisor of agents, and that leaves what? Advisor of cultural development, which is the person who's going to be in charge of what buildings to make, how to improve our cities, what cities are castles or not, and basically, you know, where to build roads, when to build them. And of course, I've set this up in such a way that all the advisors are going to have to work with each other. The advisor of military strategy will have to work with the cultural advisor to make sure that he has the buildings he needs to make the units he wants. And of course, he's going to have to work with the military development advisor in order to make sure that he makes the units he wants. So I've tried to make it to where everyone interacts as much as possible. And it sounds incredibly complex, but it's not, because everyone has their own separate job. It's not complex for the individual person. It's just a complex idea as a whole. And me as the king, my job basically is to, before every session starts, they're going to each give me a plan of what they want me to do over the next several turns. And of course, contingency plans, if such and such happens, do this. And then I just carry out everyone's orders. And the only thing I take a direct hand in is like what you just saw. I'll be the battlefield commander. And I'll be in charge of the actual battles on the battlefield. But other than that, they have final say in their departments. Now, here's the part where you guys can get involved if you want to. The advisors are already chosen for the most part. In fact, all we got to do is figure out what Kevbob wants. If he wants the advisor of agents or the advisor of cultural development. And then, so the advisors are already chosen. I chose them specifically because they have a knowledge of the game. However, if you guys want to be involved, each advisor is going to have a staff, which is people that help them with their job. And it's up to them how many they have or how many they want. But most of the advisors I've been talking to want a staff. So if you're interested in being part of it, what you do is contact each advisor or the advisor of whatever department you're interested in working for. And now you can't be on multiple advisor staffs. That's stealing jobs from other people. So like, let's say you're interested...
Taking the bread out of imaginary mouths. How dare you?
So let's say you wanted to help with diplomacy. You think it'd be really fun to try and predict what our enemies and allies are going to do in future turns, and who to watch and who to make alliances with, or who to go to war with. If you think that would be fun, then you would contact Inferno Canuck over here and say, I would like to be on your staff. And then you'll be under him. And basically, you'll give him ideas, you'll help him whenever he needs it, and he'll deal with you, and I'll deal with him. And then we can get a lot of people involved in this, and I don't go crazy. So, yep.
Because that's the important thing.
That is the important thing, me not going crazy. And now, as me as the king, I can overrule people, but really my only job is to settle jurisdiction disputes, like which advisor, like I'm sure it'll come up at some point, we don't know whose job this is. Well, I'll step in and I'll say, okay, this is so-and-so's job. But I am not, and this is a very important part, I'm not going to settle arguments, which means if my advisors are arguing with each other, just like in the real world, there's no solution to that. They have to get over their problems if they want this LP to be successful. And if we fail because they argue, then that's the whole point. It's a complex idea to see how well we can do at it. The only time I would ever step in is if one advisor just completely decides they just want to trash the LP, and just something completely stupid like the advisor of treasury doesn't want to give any money whatsoever to military at all. Well, then I might step in. But for the most part, the advisors, and this is the fun part, is they're going to have to learn to work with each other. So, good times. Good luck with that, guys.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a fun little experiment.
It will. Now, this LP is obviously going to move kind of slowly for obvious reasons. Before, during each session or after each session, we're going to have to work new strategy. But the hope is that even though it'll be a very slow-moving LP, it'll be a very fun game to watch, because you're going to see a faction that's run extremely well. If everything works the way it should, because it's not one person trying to manage everything. It's all the important parts being divided among all different people, so you can concentrate on... Wow, I'm losing my voice. You get what I'm saying.
Don't tear up, Squee.
Hopefully, it should be a very entertaining thing to watch. The campaign's going to be put on hard. The battles are going to be put on very hard, so it should be challenging. One more thing I should let you guys know is that we're going to be doing war councils, which means that in addition to the LP, or as part of the LP, I'm also going to be recording sessions of basically the advisors and me getting together and planning strategy. And I will record this as part of the LP and upload them as episodes. So if you want to watch them and see what we're planning and see how our discussions go, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, then you just skip it and go straight to the session. That's fine. Also, all of our messages back and forth are going to be on the forum on my webpage, which means you can go to the forum on the webpage and see all of our planning stages. You can see, the advisor of diplomacy talking to the advisor of military development. You can see everything there on the forums, and that should be really fun, hopefully, too. So, yeah, I've been talking everyone's ear off. If you guys are interested in being staff members, don't contact me. Contact the individual advisors, and I will have each of their YouTube pages in the description. So if you want to be with us on a certain staff, contact them, because they're the ones that hire and fire you, so to speak. Or actually, a better way would actually be go to my forum, and just go to my forum, and each advisor has his own thread, and you can just post on the thread, "Hey, I want to be part of your staff." So, and then we'll get this started, and this should be really, really fun. So, until later, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the new LP.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.